Hey friends, welcome back to Checkbox Other. I am so happy to be back here. It's been a little while. We had an unexpected break for a couple of reasons. One, I feel like Adele saying this, but one of them was COVID related. For those of you that don't know, Adele had to postpone slash reschedule a bunch of her Vegas tour and made an announcement about that. So I am just letting you know that if you've been like, Nikki, where the heck are you? We had some COVID issues with a couple guests, and also in my family, over the holidays, we were battling with kind of some COVID experiences. Thankfully, both guests and family members are doing all right. And for those of you that are navigating this, what seems to be a pervasive experience and an ongoing experience of just trying to figure out how to operate within and heal from COVID, I hear you. I see you, and I am sending you so much healing energy for sure. Also, for those of you that follow me on Instagram, you might have seen that I had my own little health scare outside of COVID that closed out the year and hit right smack dab on Christmas Eve. So there were a whole lot of unexpected hiccups. And for those of you that listen to this weekly, that was what was. That's where I was. And so I'm excited to be back with you, and I'm excited for 2022. Though there have been hiccups and there have been points of resistance, there is this opening that is happening. And I'm so excited to be kicking off 2022 with an episode featuring Margo Gabriel. Margo and I met years ago. We talked a little bit about it in the episode, but I went to an art exhibition of an artist named Nicole Colby. She is a French artist who features Black women, Black families, Black relationships. And in France, in particular, she experienced a lot of resistance to shining a light on the Black experience in her work. And so it was really interesting to hear from her about how when she came to America, there was actually a level of being embraced that she did not experience in France. And so it was a really interesting and cool way to hear someone's story through a beautiful art. I actually, if anybody's seen any videos of me, her art is behind me as part of my office setup. And so I always feel a little bit of extra nudge from that beautiful artwork that she does. But Margo and I actually met at that exhibition, and Margo is incredible. She's a freelance writer, a cookbook author, and an editor who's originally from Boston, Massachusetts. And we talk a little bit about her experience of especially being an expat at this point, because she is the author of the Expat Kitchen Cookbook that she created in her new home of Lisbon, Portugal. She's been featured in the New York Times, the Huffington Post, and Salon. Her words have been published in the Boston Art Review, Cuisine Noir, which we talk a little bit about in the episode, Edible Boston, Photos Travel, and Solstice Literary Magazine. She is just a delight, and I'm just so grateful. There are so many little meet cutes that I've had in my life with people that we never know when it's going to come back around. And I was reintroduced, our relationship kind of rekindled when I saw that she was in Portugal. And for those of you who have listened to previous episodes, I went to Portugal to close out last year in the fall for a good 6 weeks. And so I found out she was there, and I was trying to make us meet up, but life has its own way of doing things. So the wonderful alternative that we had was to have Margo on the podcast. And so I'm excited that you get to be here and be part of our jam session about all the wonderful things she's got going on as an expat abroad, embracing her love of food and writing together and creating a cookbook. And just so much of this episode is all about embracing uncertainty and taking that leap of faith in yourself. And so if any of those things resonate with you, if you're thinking about moving or traveling or exploring new cuisines or just, finding and embracing your passion more in 2022, I think that this episode is definitely for you. I look forward to hearing what you think, and I'm so excited for you to meet Margo. Welcome back to everybody to Checkbox Other, and I'm so excited. We have Margo Gabriel here today. Oh, welcome. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm super, super excited to be here.
I'm so excited. Just so you all know, we were chatting before we pressed record, and my body was going all over the place. And I was like, wait, hold on. We got to stop talking so we can have this on the record because we have so many great things to talk about. For some context, me and Margo, we met years ago at an art event, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but our paths crossed again in a kind of different kind of way, and I'm just so excited and so grateful for that, especially in the time of pandemic. To be reuniting with people is like
for sure
so heartwarming. So first things first, Margo, I always give the mic and say, hey, tell us your story, your twists, turns, ups and downs,
Sure,
all the things,
sure.
the aha moments that have led you to where you are today. Everybody definitely needs to hear your story, I believe. Well, I'll stop talking. No, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nikki. Super excited that we reconnected during the pandemic. So my name is Margo Gabriel. I'm a freelance writer originally from Boston, Massachusetts. I was born in Miami, Florida, but I always claim Boston just because this is really, where I sort of grew into the person that I am today.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was always into like storytelling and just was a huge bookworm. And I knew like by the time I was, I'd say 15, that I wanted to become a writer. Didn't know how that was going to happen, but that was like, that's the goal, right? Went to college, studied English and professional writing. And then when I graduated in '09, the economy had tanked. And so I was pretty much like in a scramble trying to find a job, any job. So I ended up in the world of accounting and I did that for many years.
Oh,
Did not like it, but you got to do the grown-up stuff. And I did that for a couple of years and then decided, in the last, I'd say 4 or 5 years to start part-time freelance writing and dip my toes back into that world. And it was nerve-wracking, putting myself out there again. I felt like I was, I don't know, in college all over again, applying for like internships.
yeah.
And then, I got my big break with the editor at Cuisine, where I sent her a cold email and she was like, okay, cool. I'm going to give you your first assignment. And that was my first byline as a food writer, interviewing TJ and Hadley Douglas of the Urban Grape in the South End.
Oh, yes.
And I'm like, that literally just changed everything, like the game for me, honestly, and just like boosted my confidence. And I was like, I can do this. Okay. I just have to, repeat this formula, like send a pitch. And if you get a yes, then, you continue that process. And so, that's just been like such a huge lesson for me in like stepping outside of my comfort zone and like consistently challenging my fears. And that's, those two mantras really have led me to Portugal and living here now.
Yes. Oh, it's so funny. So many pieces of what you're saying. I mean, I don't know. Apparently my body was ready to hear your story today because there's like heat and cold that's reacting to like every move. I'm like, all these things are so powerful. I think that piece of I'll tell you, the 2009 timeframe, my body reacted, was like, oh yes, we remember that. I graduated in 2007 and very much remember being like, there was like this whole thing. I went to school because y'all told me that this world, I was prepared to be taken care of, and then the bottom fell out. What do you mean? And how you reassess.
It's been weird.
Yeah.
How
I'm
do
supposed
you,
to be an
and
adult.
like, how do you recover?
Yes.
It's like, okay, this is not cool at all, know.
And the accounting part, I will tell you. So I went to Bentley University, big accounting, finance. I did not go for either of those things. And so it's funny because my brother right now is going for his master's in finance and he really likes accounting and stuff. And he tries to talk to me about it. I'm like, ugh. So even when you said it, I was like, yep, I feel that. I understand that. I understand sometimes we have to do things that we don't necessarily always feel passionate about. But yes, there are some people that absolutely love that. So I am so excited that freelance writing came into your world, and also I think Cuisine Noir and the Urban Grape. Like, first of all, I used to live right around the corner from there. So there's so much of this that is just beautiful. It's like the universe was like, okay, here's a challenge, and then knock, 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 try this. This feels right. Okay. Lean into it. You can trust yourself on those things. I think that's so powerful. We'll talk a little bit more about Portugal.
Yes.
But first, because, that's like, I'll jam on that forever. I would love to hear, if you have more than one, you're more than welcome to bring more than one, but a time that you felt other or different or as though you didn't belong in your life.
Oh man. I would say growing up bilingual. Both my parents are from Haiti, so they taught myself and my siblings Creole, Haitian Creole. And there was a time where I was just like really ashamed of like speaking Haitian Creole out in public. And I'm trying to think, I don't know, I'd say like in junior high, so like 12, 13, you want to be cool or whatever, or what the cool kids are doing. And so for a time I just stopped um, speaking Haitian Creole to the point where I remember, taking the subway into the city in Boston, and there was a mom and her child, and she was talking to him in another language, and she was speaking Haitian Creole, but I couldn't understand what she was saying
Yeah.
because I like was trying to will the language out of my mind, and
Yeah.
I just felt so ashamed. And I was like, you know what? There's like, stop doing this,
Yeah.
because how are you going to communicate with your grandparents or your mom? Like,
Yeah.
um, and so I was just like, whatever. If they don't, if these kids don't think it's cool, I don't care. I'm probably never gonna see you ever again after, we graduate. I don't know. I was like, I just want to hold on to this language. And so I got out of that. But that peer pressure can be just so intense, and you feel
Yeah.
like it'll never end.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm really glad I like grew out of that. So I'd say like that's maybe the first time where like it affected just like my day to day,
Yeah.
to the point where I was like speaking English, at home with my mom, and I'm like, why are you doing this?
Yeah. Your mom's like, come on.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I can't, I mean, I wish that I were in middle school with you, because all I wanted in middle school was someone to teach me Haitian Creole.
Oh, really?
And
Okay.
so
Wow.
we could have even just been in that little microcosm together. Yeah, the power of language and the power of how much language can be associated with identity is incredible. And also the power of conformity going up against that is like such, especially knowing that you're somebody that loves the written word so much and loves
Yeah.
language. It must have been such a, I mean, as teenagers in general, we are going through our own little identity crisis of sorts, right? So to have that be a layer is a really profound, powerful thing. And I felt like I was watching a movie a little bit. I could like see you on the T. There was a part of me that's like, yes, that high school version of you was like, you know what, screw this. This is who I am. I'm taking this stuff back. This is powerful. I don't care what, the outside world is telling me I need to be. I know who I am. And I think, even as we're talking about pitching and potential of like, I'm putting myself out there. Do you want to be my friend in the written world? No. Okay. All right. Just being willing to kind of stand up and stand in your power and stand in who you are and what you have to say, even if other people might not say, yeah, cool, I get it, is something that I feel like, though we go through it when we're teenagers and middle schoolers, it's something that goes in its own little cycle throughout life. And so it's such a powerful experience to be kind of navigating.
But yeah, I'd say like that's like the first experience that I had. And then when I got to high school, I decided to go natural. So I stopped chemically processing my hair. And it was just really interesting, like hearing the comments from, my classmates, like, oh, why are you doing that to your hair? I was like, because I want to. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was a very uncomfortable feeling, like, just wearing my hair out in the way that it grows naturally. So it took a while to like appreciate my hair texture, and now I absolutely love it. Like,
Yes.
Really, really appreciate just the versatility of it. And I often got asked like, oh, are you going natural because it's a political statement? I'm like, no, it's not. It's just, this is me. This is what my hair looks like. So I'd say those two are like the top moments where I sort of felt othered.
So it is just so fascinating too. The part of like, you're like, I'm having my own relationship with my hair and you're making it mean something so far from what it means to me. And so I have to entertain and hold space for that. I had to have that conversation. I have to be like, wait, is that why I'm doing that? Because your reaction to my decisions about my life and my body, how, I feel like it's such a reflection of the world that we operate in though, right? Like
100%.
Especially as women of color, Black women, it's like our experiences aren't our own. And so therefore you have, no, who needs boundaries? Who needs filters? Because you can make comments about all my stuff anytime you want. And it is such a fascinating thing to I think like as you're, in reflection or even in witnessing real time, be able to say, what makes people feel so comfortable to just say things that are so
Mhm.
not their business and inappropriate oftentimes.
Yeah.
It's funny. I actually have had, so my mother's white, my father's black, my father's from Haiti. Um,
Okay.
and I even in recent years had a conversation with my mother about the fact that like about hair in particular, that like you
Mhm.
can't you can't just go and touch hair. You can't touch, like you can't, there is a dynamic where you can't do those things. And it's not, well, why can't I? It's more because there is extreme historical context. And also in
Mm.
present time, there's a lot of undertones that people don't even know they're verbalizing, or whether they
Yeah.
feel it intentionally or not, that are coming through. And it is just really fascinating to operate in a space where you're like, no, actually, I wasn't rebelling. I was just standing in my own space doing my own thing, but it means so much to you because
Mm.
whether
Yeah.
you are comfortable with it yourself, like you're projecting a whole bunch of stuff on me. Yeah. So
Yeah.
powerful. Oh, okay. Thank you for that, by the way. Very generous
Yeah, no
in sharing.
problem.
So I'll come back to Lisbon because
Okay.
I think there's a huge part of, I mean, the fact that one, you're in Lisbon, you've been in Lisbon for a little over a year now. Congratulations. That's a big
Thank
deal.
you.
And part of your experience in your journey has been bringing your culture heritage through food into Lisbon and creating these wonderful experiences for people to bask in the amazingness that is Haitian cuisine.
Okay.
So I'd love to hear a little bit about like, well, I guess first, talk to me a little bit about how you made the decision to go to Portugal and what that
Yeah, yeah.
experience has been like in, just really flourishing. I mean, at least from what I can see, stepping into who you are and flourishing out loud, in a new environment in a place like Lisbon.
Um, yes. So I first came to Lisbon on vacation in 2018, and before then I was always traveling to Europe, going to Paris or London, but Portugal really was never on my radar actually. And that year I was on my way to Mozambique, and Tap Air had like I don't know, some sort of special, like, spend 3 days in Lisbon.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, I'm gonna already be here, sure. And that's really what brought me to Lisbon. And I was like, oh my goodness, this city is amazing.
Yeah.
And so I promised myself that I would come back. Didn't know when, but the goal was to, maybe spend a month and just like use up my vacation time while I was still working in academia. To just explore and get inspired, and then 2020 rolled around, and COVID did its thing, and I don't know, I just was like, I want to do something different. And this was around I'd say like May, June
Yeah.
2020. So at that point I decided to just do some more research and like see, you know how feasible this
Yeah.
idea uh
How do we
could
land this
be.
dream so we can actually do it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know, this is a shot in the dark. But I said,
Yeah.
you know what, just try. Like, if you don't get your visa approved, then okay,
Yeah.
let's try something else. And it got approved, and I was like, oh my gosh, okay, now I have to make good on this, because it's like actually like I was more stunned. Like, every sort of thing on my to-do list to get here, you know, was happening, and I was getting my paperwork sent out, and I was always at the consulate, like to the point where the security guards thought I worked there, and I'm like, I don't work here. I'm trying to leave, actually. So it was, I had my high moments and like my not so high moments, just like
Yeah.
trying to deal with immigration and everything. And yeah, it was all a new experience. And when I finally like got my visa, I was like, oh, okay, now I got to tell my family. Because I just was like doing it on my own. I told maybe one friend, and
Yeah.
then I wanted it, for sure to like get it approved, and then be able to like confidently say, hey, so I'm leaving.
Yes. This is happening.
And yeah, that happened in October. I got here the first weekend in October
Oh,
2020. So I'm still like, wow, okay, this really happened.
yeah. And did it feel
And I
like
didn't
this
know
past year
anyone
has
here.
been long?
Uh, I feel like it flew by, honestly. I think only because like I was working on so many projects and just like meeting so many incredible people here, trying to learn the language still. But I've just been trying to soak it all in, honestly. So yeah, it's been a wonderful year. Um, just grateful for the community that I've been able to become a part of, and they're like so incredibly supportive. And I think that's really part of the reason I've been more confident in like saying, okay, cool, I think I want to write a book, or I want to like explore more of the Portuguese cuisine, and now I want to share my culture, Haitian heritage with my community here. And it just conversations with friends at dinner, and they all have their own skills. And so a friend at dinner one time was like, you should host a little like a dinner and cook recipes from your cookbook. This was, I think, in August. And I was like, okay, that sounds great. And then, we have a ton of friends who own restaurants, and he was opening like a new concept restaurant, and we met, and he was like, this is great. Let's, figure out the menu. And it was just literally one sitting. We organized the menu. We went grocery shopping that Saturday, and we hosted that Monday evening. And I was like, what in the, I was a nervous wreck. I was like, I don't know what
Yeah.
I'm doing. But
Yeah.
no, my community for sure, like just came out in support, and it was a wonderful, wonderful event. So
I
yeah,
love
it
it.
was great. Yeah, I was really proud of that, and just seeing people really enjoy the dishes that I grew up eating, and teaching them about, Toussaint Louverture and the Haitian Revolution. Like
Yeah.
super, super proud moment for sure.
Yeah. There's like such a beautiful underpinning of this experimental alchemy that's coming through with so much of your story, even from, when you were a little kid, of just being like, all right, I don't like this. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that. Whether it was, where we want to go or not, let's try something different and see what happens. And even just
Mhm.
as you were just framing the Portugal part, the trip being like, yeah, okay, even how you got there, I know exactly what you're talking about, where Tap's like, do you want to spend 4 days in between? You're like, oh, I never thought there was such thing as a 4-day layover.
Right.
Sure, I'll try it. Like, for that to be the thing that was like, yeah, I'll check this place out, for you to have that kind of meet cute of sort with
Mhm.
a city that is, I mean, at least from my experience, was so powerful. It sounds like even more powerful in just the human beings that came across your path and have become your chosen family, chosen community in Lisbon, is just such a powerful thing. And then for that to then extend to, we were sitting at a table having a meal, and you were like, you want to try this? And you're like, sure. Like, kind of that
Yeah.
willingness to experiment, to try, goes as well to that kind of pitch. I'm going to pitch this, I'm going to pitch that, I'm going to
Yeah.
get this opportunity, and I'm going to just see what happens. There is like, the sense I get is like, so much of this is outside of what you probably would have charted for yourself, 6 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Be like, this is where I'm going to be. And the willingness to be like, let me try it. Who knows? There's so
Yeah.
much on the other side of that, who knows, that, is so much bigger than what you can vision for yourself. I'd love to hear what your kind of
Sure.
taken thoughts about that kind of living in the uncertainty. So I'm going to say comfortably, even though you were like, I was a nervous wreck. How has that been, of just kind of embracing the uncertainty?
Um, I'll say that like I'd lived abroad before, and
Mm,
so the idea of like, I guess, leaving home, it didn't scare me that much, only because I knew like, okay, if it didn't work out, I could just always go back
yeah.
home.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I've always just been like a curious person, and I think that, you know, has always like pushed me into different projects, or just like stepping outside of my comfort zone, and like chatting people up, or going to the museum by myself, and like trying to meet new people and things like that. So I think that definitely translates into the work that I do creatively, professionally. And honestly, I really want to just be able to inspire other people to like do the same,
Yeah.
because um, I think that's what Portugal has like proven to me, is like you can really just expand and transform your life, um, by trying something different. And yeah, I always tell people like this past year has been so transformative, so transformative. Yeah.
I love that so much. Well, it's like you got the questions ahead of time a little bit or something. No, there was a part of, I mean, I was in Portugal for about 6 weeks and I went, I mean, COVID, part of this that we haven't even talked about this move that you're doing in the middle of a pandemic and borders and all of that, like that is itself, you know, though you might have lived somewhere before, highly likely not with this type of uncertainty and lack of control of like, can I get there? How can I get there? What do I need to do? And so much kind of that the ease that feels like it's coming off you as you talk about this is such a beautiful thing, I think, to add to the mix, because right now there is so much of the opposite in when we talk about how to kind of live our lives in the midst of uncertainty right now. And so I am personally just so grateful for that kind of just being normalized. Yeah, I tried it. I made it happen, tested it out, saw how that worked, you know, got the papers, was surprised by the papers, but kept happening and kept showing up, had the conversation with my family. And, you know, the experimental vibe is like, again, I feel like there's so many women that I work with as coaching clients that I'm like, it's okay to try. You don't have to be great at it. You don't have to be perfect at it. It can actually fail. And that's okay, because we learn so much from that, from not moving and not trying and not potentially failing. We don't learn very much. So I think there's so much power in that. The other part of this, because I, again, will nerd out on Portugal all day. There is something so unique, because I've been in Europe before. I studied abroad for a while in France. I love being outside of America. I think the exposure to other cultures is something that everybody should have in their lives.
For sure.
Whether it be because you grew up in a home that isn't assimilating to the American way of life, or that you actually stepped outside your comfort zone, stepped outside the borders of your country to actually experience life elsewhere. But Portugal brought something that I didn't expect. I mean, I knew, you know, my cousin, the reason I even went, my cousin was like, hey, you want to go? I'm in Brussels. We have this place that we can't use. You want to go? And I was like, are you kidding? She's like, no. It's like, oh, yes. Okay. But that's all I knew. I mean, I watch soccer. I mean, I know Portugal through soccer more than anything. And, you know, I had never been before. And so getting there, I didn't know anything about culture. I didn't know anything about economics or government. I didn't really know much. And I felt like, I always talked about this when I was first in Boston, going over the bridge into the Cape was this feeling of just being able to take my shoulders down a little bit, feeling separate from, and Europe was a much bigger bodily experience of that. But being in Portugal, there was this sentiment of like, the controlling grip got to be released even more so than the times that I had been in other places in Europe, for sure. And I didn't realize why at the time. But I think so much of it has to do with, I didn't stay in Lisbon. I stayed outside in Algés, which wasn't touristy.
Oh, nice. You know, okay, yeah. My friend has a restaurant in there, in that neighborhood.
Oh man,
so when you come back, we'll check out.
I'll be back soon. I'm actually coming back in May.
Fantastic.
But it was such an interesting thing, because culturally there were so many different dynamics. I think the demographics, and it being an older country, I think parts that were selling me, you know, in the middle of a pandemic, was safety, was just like cost of living was, you know, interesting, a different dynamic of like the cost of actually where you live can be relatively high for folks locally, but also like going to the supermarket and spending $10 and getting all the things I need. I was like, wait, what?
Still not over that.
Yeah. But there is a part, right? There's like the kind of deal of it all, the capitalism mind that can't quite function in a place that isn't super consumerist. And so there were so many pieces that just felt like my shoulders got to go down, my back got to unknot, my teeth got to not clench anymore.
Right.
And then the part that I didn't know until my cousin's sister-in-law talked to me about saudade. I'm not probably saying it right, but the sentiment, like there was this feeling of like not having to be on and perform, and to just, you know, as a little kid even was always like, hi, you know, just kind of being aware of everything around you and ensuring that you're operating appropriately. And even I remember first day, I was walking around like, no one's looking at me. Nobody cares what I'm doing. And not in a mean way, not like dismissive, nothing. It was just like, do you, I'll do me. And there was so much space, but there was also this kind of emotive nature that I couldn't put my finger on, because in America, apparently it is weak for us to express, feel, and live within our emotions. And there was so much, I think, beauty and power in just marinating in a different environment that gave permission to so many parts of me that had been locked up or guarded for so long. So I'd love to hear
Mm,
kind of if any of that resonates with you. What
yeah,
stood out.
definitely. Um, I'll say I'm like traditionally an introvert. Like that's me.
I love it. I love
Um,
introverts.
and so even this sort of venture into like creating Margo's Creative Life, my website, my brother, who's also a creative, he was like, you travel so much, you need to start documenting like what you're doing because you could connect with more people. And I was like, okay, I'll try. So even in that sort of venture, like I'm so happy that I did it because like now I have something to look back on and just like reminisce about like putting myself out there and like not being afraid to try something different. So like being here has just it really moves me to be more creative. Like the light in the city is beautiful if you're into photography. The architecture. I love being near the beach, so it's like for me right now, Lisbon is my happy place. And I appreciate that because it's fueling my creativity. And just it makes me more open minded. Like before, when I was in Boston, obviously I had my life, I was working a job that wasn't, related to any sort of creative outlet. Um, and so I never really had enough like time to really pursue my creative interests, and being here has allowed me to do that. Being a freelancer has allowed me to do that. So um, if I didn't sort of take that leap, like I just can't imagine not meeting the people that I know now. Like they've literally changed my life. Like it's crazy, super, super crazy. So, and I feel like I've known them longer than a year. It's just really nuts. Um, but that's really what Portugal, what Lisbon has given me. It's like to just really expand creatively. Um, yeah.
Yeah, and that permission. I mean, there is so much. It's. I feel like I use the word contagious a lot outside of COVID, and every time I'm like, huh, don't say it. But it is
Right.
like there is this, especially being a creative person. I remember when I worked at Bain Capital, a private equity
Yep.
investment management
Mhm.
company. Yeah. And I remember I had been there, and before that I was at Bain and Company. So like very professional places.
Mhm.
And we took a diagnostic. I forget what it was even called. It was some sort of, you took a long test before you had this workshop with someone, professional
Yeah.
development to,
Mhm.
and I remember that they walked us, they actually didn't show us our results until they took the first half of the day to walk us through what things were. And one of the quadrants was creativity. And I felt my body like yearning for that yellow quadrant. I was like, I know that is me, but I also know that this space that I'm in has not allowed me to do that. So have my test scores shown who I really am, or have they shown who I've twisted myself into being? And I
Yeah.
remember I actually, again, these are with my coworkers. And so after lunch, they're like, here are your results. And I opened it and I lost my shit. I started crying and they're like, and I was like,
Really?
I am creative. I thought I was, I thought I lost it. It was like, and it was like in pretty deeply into the yellow. And I was like, oh my God, I thought I ruined everything because I haven't been in a space that nurtures it and fosters it to exist. And I was doing
Yeah.
marketing, let me tell you that. So let me not act like,
Oh, wow.
I was still in
Okay.
a space, but it was a very structured way of doing it. It was there was a
Yeah.
very specific right way to do it. And I was even trying to push that a little bit. And I was like, no, Nikki,
Mm,
stay there.
yeah. Yeah.
And so there is so much power in one, I think, seeing the need and the power and the wisdom you have within you, whether the environment fosters it or not, that creativity is going to bubble up. But then to be in a place that's like, we want more of that. It's like, oh, this is allowed here. Let's see how much can, just flow out
Yeah.
of you. And so having that in the environment, then the people, right, to have that interaction and so
Yeah.
much creative interplay is, I mean, again, body's going crazy. Got chills everywhere. I feel like it's something that I just wish that everybody could have in some part of their life. It might not be in the exact same packaging, but the freedom to be in spaces that celebrate the things that light you up, the things that allow you to
Yeah.
be so very much yourself. I feel like the world, first of all, I feel like the world would be a much more, much more
Oh my
positive,
gosh,
inclusive place.
for sure, for
But
sure.
for each and every one of us, I think health-wise, mental health, physical health, I think all of that would start to just shake itself out. Like, I think we're actually
Mm-mm.
programmed to exist as humans.
Definitely. And just the point about, you know, wishing more people to have access to that, to tap into that, because I think we're all creative,
Oh
honestly.
yeah.
It's just a matter of like nurturing it and, maybe having the exposure to art, or I don't know, I think those sort of small moments really add up. Like I remember being, a teenager or much younger, and my cousin Bitson, who's an artist, like he would take me to the museum and we'd go to
Okay.
the MFA, and like he was like my coolest. I mean, he still is like one of my coolest cousins. I really admire him. But I was like, I want to be like him when I grow up,
Yeah.
taking my
Yeah.
niece and nephews to the museums on the weekends, and doing really cool things like that, and just being able to like nurture your creativity. Um, yeah, it's definitely had a huge impact on my life.
And being able to witness the creativity of others, I think, is such a powerful thing too, right? Like, as
Absolutely.
you're talking
Yeah.
about like going to the MFA, even where we met, we were at like an art exhibition
Oh,
of a
right.
woman
Yes.
Nicole Kobe, Nicole, I loved her so much. There's a part of
Super
it's like,
talented.
yeah, right. And just her story was so powerful. But the
Hmm.
ability to be in a space surrounded by art, surrounded by such wonderful ideas, but then to hear her story behind all the different elements that brought her art to us at that moment in
Hmm.
time, I thought was such a
Hmm.
powerful thing. And I feel like bringing together the power of story and writing and art and just the experience,
Hmm.
even that, like the environment that we were in, that was, I feel like there's not very many spaces that I've been in Boston that were kind of that open space, but also was so curated and nimble in a
Yeah.
way that you felt like it was very specifically set up for you to have
Hmm.
a specific type of experience that wasn't some big,
Hmm.
huge show. It was just like, hey, come
Right.
hang out with me in this space. Because
Yeah.
it did, I think it gave permission for I'm first of all so glad it gave us permission in some way, shape, or form to be meeting each
Absolutely.
other.
Yeah.
But yeah, that the ability to, even if I say this, I feel like I'm saying this kind of to myself, but also to, if you're listening and you're like, I'm creative, but now I can't start that, or I can't do that. Like, the first step could be to just allow yourself to be in proximity to more creativity. You don't have to go and do and
Yeah.
jump and do all these things at first, but like, allow yourself to be in those spaces and to say, oh, this feels good.
Hmm.
I'm allowed to feel good here. I think is such a powerful thing. And so many women that I coach too,
Hmm.
they come to the table saying, I know this isn't right, and I'm always like, why is it
Hmm.
not right? And oftentimes it's because we're told like, oh, that's a waste of time. Or, I think about the reason I chose the college I went to was because I wanted
Hmm.
to be financially independent and stable in a business
Yeah.
career. Was that what I wanted to do? Like, was that where I was
Hmm.
passionate? No. But there is so much kind of, in order to do it right, you've got to do it this way. And oftentimes that is about leaving behind the parts of yourself that are like, wait, I'm here and there's so much
Yeah.
great stuff I have to offer. So it's just so what I think there's what I'm trying to say. It's just so wonderful to hear your journey of honoring and embracing that, but also creating enough spaces for those little parts that might not have been able to be there to show up and be like, hey, this is what I want to do. Let's try this out. And be like, yeah, okay, let's see how we play with this. Let's play around and see where it goes. Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So I do want to ask this question. So
Yes.
how do you feel that this, stepping into a new environment, into a new
Hmm.
space, in a new community of people, embracing, like, I mean, writing your own cookbook, creating these pop-ups, like so much of just like, I'm going to say newness, but some of it might not be as, it's just so cool. How has it impacted the work that you the through line of the kind of freelance writing that you've been doing? I'm sure there has been some sort of impact one way or another. How has that kind of shifted or changed, or any kind of thing that kind of resonates or stands out?
That's a great question. I'd say for me, like whenever I'm writing a story or, pitching something,
Mm.
legacy is so, so important to me. And so whenever I get an opportunity to interview a chef or a winemaker or anyone in the culinary space, like I want to be able to, do a good job and like honor their story in a way that's going to make them proud to like, you know, read it later and share it with others. And I think for me, like growing up Haitian American and like not seeing other Black food writers, like I didn't know any until maybe I got to college. And just seeing like the work that they've done and left behind, like that inspired me to also, you know, try to do something similar. Like I absolutely love Dr. Jessica B. Harris. Her memoir, My Soul Looks Back, is one of my favorite books. Absolutely beautiful writing in there. But for me, it's just like being able to honor that person's story, but also show that like, yes, you can, you know, pursue a creative career. Like my mom wanted me to become a nurse and I'm like, I can't stand the sight of my own blood. So I just wasn't going to work. Like,
so where am I going to work? Where am I going to be?
Yeah,
the part of nursing.
So I was like, this has to work because I can't. I can't. Yeah. But yeah, I'd say legacy is something that just always like inspires and motivates the work that I do.
Yeah.
And then just being able to like inspire my siblings and people in my family, my community in Boston, to go after your dreams. Like if there's something that you want to pursue, you know, think about who's around you that could potentially help you, you know, take that project to the next level. Like Issa Rae says, network across. And I really like this past year has taught me that tremendously. So yeah. Hope I answered the question.
Did you? Of course you did. I'm like trying to keep myself together. I'm like tearing up over here. Let's keep myself together. Okay. So it's funny because as you're talking about Jessica B. Harris, you're talking about kind of creating these spaces to say like, yeah, what you know, what you've got is really important. There's a part of me, I was food blogging a bunch of years ago because it was my favorite thing. Okay. It was like, can this be, can I make my spending and my need for like humanity outside of work? Cause I felt like I wasn't getting a lot of that. I was like, restaurants are, so yeah, let me write about it. And I was like, I'm better at taking the pictures and consuming it and then telling people about it. I'm not, because of the perfectionism that I had internalized from so many places, I couldn't just let the words flow. I couldn't do it. I was like, let me make this perfect. And I was like, it doesn't need to be. It needs to be like what you're trying to express it doesn't need to be a job for you either, which I think is another thing that oftentimes is difficult when we find something that we're really passionate about, that we feel like we have to make it work somehow. We have to like hustle culture it into existence one way or another. But I would love to hear, because I do feel like Haitian cuisine, I grew up in Connecticut. People did not know Haiti. They didn't know Haitian.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yes. Okay.
Yep. It was interesting. But I grew up going to Nyack, New York, where my grandmother lived, and we would go there multiple times a month. And I didn't speak Haitian Creole, and so she had some English, but we didn't get, it was still a very verbose human. But we didn't talk as much as I do with every other human being in the world, whether they want to or not. Oops. But so much of our connection was through food and witnessing and watching the kind of artistry. And I think I'm biased, and I know that there's a little bit of bias in you about this too, but like there is something about Haitian food that has so much complexity and layers and emotion and sentiment. And at least for me, was so much love. And I feel like in the last 5 years, and really, we'll leave 5 years because time feels so weird right now. 5 years and 2 years, because the last 2, what is that?
Right.
But I feel like Haitian food has become something that people are talking about on a larger scale. That is becoming more familiar, even though, I mean, it's not you can't go to Haitian restaurants everywhere you go, but I go to Highland Cuisine. I just had it the other day. I have a little bit of leftover.
So good.
It's definitely something that's becoming, what I think, it's finally getting the flowers it deserves, slowly but surely. And so I'd love to hear from you kind of because for me, it's such a relationship oriented thing. It's so much of like my relationship with my grandmother, so much of my relationship with my Haitian heritage, for sure. There is like so much unspoken that comes through the experience of Haitian food. I'd love to hear from you of like, as you were creating the pop-ups, 2 creating the book, how so much of your experience has been woven within Haitian cuisine and introducing people to it, or bringing them back to something that's so familiar and nostalgic for them.
really awesome question. I'll say that I'm very grateful to my older sister and my mom for teaching me how to cook. Like I was
Yes.
very stubborn as a teenager in that particular area. Like I was like, I don't want to touch this. So, they, put up with it, and like I don't know, it's really just it's come in so much handy. It came in so much handier because here everything is so fresh, and like I was homesick, honestly. Like I was
Mhm.
like, okay, there are no I hadn't met another Haitian person when I moved here. And then I was like, all right, well, let me try to recreate some of these recipes. And that's really, I got in the kitchen and started cooking, and I was like, oh, this is so great. And I called my sister, I'm like, what's the ingredient? Or, trying to source certain spices, and like,
Yeah.
we love spicy anything. And so
Yes.
I had to like track down Scotch bonnet peppers at the
Yeah.
one of the Asian markets in Martinique. And so I
Nice.
was ecstatic when I like found that market, and then the Senegalese market in Rocio, and being able
Nice.
to find plantains. And that was like super exciting. So all those
Yes.
like discoveries at the grocery store was like epic. Um, but yeah, being able to like share my heritage with my newfound friends here, that's been icing on the cake for me. Because many of them have never been to Haiti, they've maybe never heard the language spoken. And so, being able to use the pop-up dinners as a way to educate people about Haitian culture, Haitian history, Haitian
Yes.
music, the language, and just how like colorful it is. Like, man, I feel like I've already won, like whatever
Yes.
award that is, you know what I mean? And um it's just so affirming. Like I'll say that. It's super, super affirming. And I love Haitian food. I'm biased. Like I think it's really the best, but
Mhm. Yes.
there's just so much, like you said, complexity involved. And um, being able to like make legume, which is like the stewed vegetable dish with rice for some the Portuguese friends that came, and some other expats came, and they were like, this is amazing. And being able to share a little anecdote about each dish,
Yeah.
um, fantastic. And being able to write about my culture and the food, is professionally is like such a rewarding experience. So I'm happy about that, honestly.
Yeah. My stomach is like, give me some of that. You're talking about it. Give me more legumes now.
I
Uh,
know.
it's so funny. I kind of self-taught Jumu. I've been making, even
Oh,
though, yeah.
yes.
I
Yes, that's
know it's supposed
awesome.
that I grew up calling it breakfast soup because I was so excited.
I love
As a
that.
kid, I would eat everything all the time, right? And I'm not a big dessert, well, as I've gotten older, I like sweets more, but I wasn't a big dessert person, not a huge breakfast
Okay.
person, but like
Okay.
give me the real food any time of day,
Nice.
I will eat
Mm,
it. And so
nice.
the experience of trying to recreate, and I will say that the pandemic for sure gave me the time and the space to like try, experiment,
Mm.
fail, be like, does this taste right from my memory? Um, and I feel like my grandmother's with me when I'm
Mm,
cooking it. And it's funny because every time it's a little different. I think that that's also the beauty of Haitian food, at least in
yeah.
my experience of Haitian food. It's not like there is one specific and only way to do this. It's like
Right.
bring the things you love, elevate the parts that you like, change this
Hmm.
out, do that, be creative with it.
Yeah.
Which again, I think is what baking has never been good for me, because they're like, well, you have to be measuring. I'm like, that's not how I think about food. That's not how I cook. You don't want me doing any of the
Same.
science here. Yeah. So I'm just so excited. So first, I want to make sure we give some love to your cookbook, The Expat
Thank
Kitchen.
you. Thank you.
How did that kind of come about? Obviously it sounds like you're sourcing from I when you were talking about finding ingredients, I'm imagining a scavenger hunt. So I'd love
Literal.
to hear a little bit about, yeah, right? A scavenger hunt, cool. I mean, a scavenger hunt of all the best things. If plantains were the thing at the end of the rainbow, like who wouldn't
Oh
want to go
my
at the end of that
gosh.
rainbow all the time?
Exactly.
So tell me a little bit about how, did you always know you were going to do a cookbook?
No, actually, like I knew I always wanted to write a book. Thought it
Yeah,
would be maybe like a book of essays or poetry, or I don't
yeah,
know, something. But when I got here, I was, well, always cooking and experimenting and having friends over, and little by little, they were like, you should, one friend in particular, she was like, you should write a cookbook. And I was like, I'm a food writer. I don't, I don't know. And so I just kind of blew it off. Um, but I was consistently like either cooking at my place or at a friend's place. And then I was like, let me just start writing like these recipes down, or at least my favorite recipes.
Yeah.
And so I started in my Google Docs and I started listing some of the dishes that I was already making for friends, like my carbonara, the fried pork Clio, and fried plantains, and our favorite pickles and all that good stuff. And then it started coming together and I was like, okay, I think I have something here. So that was in January of last year, that I started like the conversations and then started writing down the recipes. And then I was like, all right, well, who's a photographer that I know? So I tapped to two friends here, Eladia and Jean, and they're fantastic. Jean ended up doing all of the photography for the cookbook. She's amazing. And then I was like, all right, well, let me think about merging the things that I love. I love music, I love food, and I love people. And so that's really like how it started coming together. I created the playlist and then started testing the recipes. I had a sommelier in Virginia by the name of Benita Johnson, who I'm forever grateful to for providing the wine recommendations and pairings, I should say. And she also tested a lot of the recipes. And I was like, you really don't know how much this means to me.
Yeah.
And it was literally a team effort, and super grateful for everyone. But yeah, I did not have any plan on actually writing a cookbook last year, but just the support and people keeping me accountable. I had a group of friends, and we would meet, I'd say a couple times a week. And they're like, all right, well, how have you progressed this year or this week? What can we do to help you? And so my friend Shar, she's like a Canva wizard. She would help me with like, advertising. She's one who like made the flyer for my book launch party, and just amazing. Everyone here literally had a hand in bringing it together.
Cool. And the part that I want to make sure doesn't get lost for people, because I feel like most cookbooks aren't paired with wonderful playlists. It's not even that, it's not just the amazing food you're bringing to it and the wine pairings, but you're also creating the experience of what goes along with it when you're happy. So it's like somebody's doing it with you, or at least having that shared sensory experience along with the amazing experience of making the food and like feeling the food, smelling the food, tasting it, but you're also having that musical component to it too. It's just so thoughtful, I think, and brings so much unity again right now where we can't necessarily be in community with each other.
Exactly. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to add the playlist, because I love music. And whenever I am cooking, I have a playlist going. And whenever I would have company over, we're setting the vibes with really nice jazz or something upbeat. And that was really important to include in the cookbook.
I love it. Well, everybody get your Expat Kitchen book now. We're going to have links. We'll have links in the show notes. So make sure you go get yours, because I mean, we should all be jamming out together and feasting together. I am just so, first of all, I just want to shower you with gratitude for you being willing to chat today, but also sharing so much of your wonderful story that is just, I mean, it's just scratching the surface. I feel like there's so much generative energy coming from you that, like, thinking about the fact that you got there in October and by January you started writing your book, like there's just so much momentum. And I know that I saw that you posted this, and we kind of went back and forth a little bit on social media, that you're feeling this additional kind of boost of expansion and expansive energy. I just feel like the sky is the limit. I'm so excited to just bear witness to all of it. So please know,
thank you.
I am always cheering you on. And I hope,
appreciate that. Thank you.
If you are doing a pop-up in May, my sister, I think my brother will be there. All of us.
Okay. All right.
We will stop everything we're doing to go have some Haitian food. So
yes. Let me know your dates. Like we'll make something happen for sure.
Yes, I can't wait. for everybody listening, Margo's information will be on all the show notes, but is there anything in particular that you want to make sure we amplify here right now?
Follow me on Instagram, Margo's Creative Life. Buy my book, tell a friend about it. Let me know what you think. And yeah, just keep up with, my happenings here in Lisbon.
Yes. And go to Lisbon, my friends. Go visit Lisbon.
Please come visit.
Even if it's that 3-day layover, do it.
Right.
You never know. It might change your life. Well, Thank you so much, Margo. I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you. This was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I don't know about you, but after this conversation with Margo, I am feeling excited and lit up to find more things that I'm feeling a little bit uncertain or curious about and lean into them to see what's on the other side of those opportunities that might make me feel a little bit nervous, but my goodness, there might be so much possibility on the other side. Who knows? For Margo, it was a 3-day layover that resulted in so much incredible exponential growth in her life. And what would that look like for you? I don't know. I would actually love to hear about it. If there's anything you're considering or any of these leaps that you have taken, feel free to reach out to us. You can go to nikkyinnocent.com/join the conversation and let us know what you thought of this episode. Feel free to rate and review us on your favorite podcast channel. Or if you follow us on social media, let us know what you thought. We'll probably have a post about this episode, so definitely drop in the comments or send us a DM. I am so grateful for the fact that you choose to spend your valuable time and the energy with which you use your ears to spend some time with us. And I just want you to know from the bottom of my heart, I am grateful for you, and you matter, your story matters, and you living a life that is lit up and embracing who you uniquely are is something that is better for each and every one of us. So I hope that this resonated with you, and I can't wait to catch you on the next episode.